So this is basically the airport of Svalbard, Longyearbyen. Svalbard is actually archipelago between the mainland, Norway, and the North Pole. Archipelago meaning it's actually a group of islands, basically, and it's kind of like located halfway between the mainland, Norway, and the North Pole at around 70-degree north latitude. The time that I visited was around the polar summer, okay, where the daylight remains kind of up for 24 hours, and you get to have the unique experience of seeing the midnight sun. If you look at while I was heading back to my hotel, I could kind of, notice a lot of terrain of glaciers and, kind of a frozen tundra. And these are actually, I mean, like the whole place is home to animals like polar bears. Then we have a lot of Svalbard reindeers and the Arctic fox. So during the trip, I was actually fortunate enough to kind of spot one polar bear, and then there were a lot of Svalbard reindeers like roaming across the entire region, and a bit of Arctic fox. And I think I spotted one Arctic fox running up the mountain while we were doing the dog sledding. So the whole trip was divided into four events. The first one was actually the taxi tour. The guide being a Norwegian, he kind of took us around the city and gave us the history lesson. And his session was very interesting because he kind of combined both the history and humor to it. And the second part was actually, the boat cruise trip that we'll get to see in a while. The third one being the coal mine trip, which is very informative, and the fourth being the dog sledding. The dog sledding proved to be a unique experience. We get to see, the different types of huskies, again, and how they are grown, the dog yards spread across. So it was kind of a very great experience to have a ride with huskies. So the hotel that I checked into was the Radisson Blue Polar Hotel. It's actually around 4 or 5 kilometers from the Longyearbyen airport. So it was actually pretty much easy to commute, heading from the airport and then to the hotel and then back to the airport.
സ്വാബേർഡിൻ്റെ ഹോട്ടൽ ചെക്ക് ഇൻ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ള വീഡിയോ ലോഗാണ്. പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ മലകളും മേഘങ്ങളും കൂടെ ഇതായിട്ടുള്ള രീതിയിലുള്ള ഒരു ഇതാണ്. ഇപ്പം ഞാൻ എടുത്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഒരു ചെറുതായിട്ട് ഡ്രിസിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട് ഇവിടെ. പിന്നെ തണുപ്പ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു 7 ഡിഗ്രി 6 ഡിഗ്രി 5 ഡിഗ്രി ആ റേഞ്ചിൽ തന്നെയാണ്. നല്ല തണുപ്പുണ്ട്. ഇവിടെയൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് നിന്ന് കുറച്ചുകൂടെ ദൂരോട്ട് പോകണമെങ്കിൽ വിൻഡ് പ്രൂഫ് ജാക്കറ്റ് ഇല്ലാതെ നമുക്ക് പറ്റില്ല. പിന്നെ റാഡിസൺ ബ്ലൂ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു ഹോട്ടലാണ്. ആ ഹോട്ടൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ അതിൻ്റെ ആ പുറയിലുള്ള മലകളാണ്. മലകളിപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റില്ല, കംപ്ലീറ്റ്ലി മറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇപ്പം ഈ ഡ്രിസിലിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഡ്രിസിൽ ക്ലൗഡാണിത്. ഇനി കുറച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞ് ചിലപ്പം ഇച്ചിരി ശക്തമായിട്ട് മഴ പെയ്യാൻ ചാൻസസ് ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കും. എന്തായാലും ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യാനുണ്ട് ഇവിടെ. പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ എൻ്റെ കൂടെ 2 ഇന്ത്യൻസ് വേറെ അവരും ചെക്ക് ഇൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അവരോടൊപ്പം ഒന്ന് തീരുമാനിക്കണം ഏത് ആക്ടിവിറ്റിക്കാണ് പോകേണ്ടത്. പിന്നെ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ സ്നോയിലും ഐസിലും അങ്ങനത്തെ ഇതായിട്ട് അങ്ങ് മഞ്ഞൊന്നും ഇല്ല തീരെ. പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഹൈറ്റ് കൂടുന്ന അനുസരിച്ചാണ് ചിലയിടങ്ങളിൽ ഇതുള്ളത്. ഞാൻ ചെക്ക് ഇൻ ചെയ്ത ഹോട്ടലിൻ്റെ എൻട്രി പോയിൻ്റാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ബാറും ഇതൊക്കെ ഉള്ളതാണ്. എന്തായാലും സമയം ഇവിടെ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഇതേ രീതി തന്നെ നിൽക്കും. എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു വെളിച്ചം ഇതേ തന്നെയാണ് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. ഇവിടെ ഇരുട്ടാറില്ല. ഈ പോളാർ സമ്മർ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ഇരുട്ട് ആവാനായിട്ടുള്ളത് തീരെയില്ല. എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഡേ ലൈറ്റ് തന്നെയാണ് കണ്ടിന്യൂസ്ലി. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് തന്നെ ഒരു ബസറോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ടൈമർ എപ്പോഴും ഒരു ക്ലോക്കോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ബസർ എപ്പോഴും കൈ വെച്ചേക്കണം, സമയം അറിയാനായിട്ടുള്ള രീതിയിൽ. പിന്നെ ബാക്കി എല്ലാം പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ സമയത്തിന് അടയ്ക്കുകയും ചെയ്യും. പറഞ്ഞ 11 മണിക്ക് തന്നെ കിച്ചൺ ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് കിച്ചൺ ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്യും. അപ്പോൾ അതിനോടൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ സാധനങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് കഴിക്കേണ്ടതിൽ കഴിച്ചിരിക്കണം, മേടിക്കേണ്ടതിൽ മേടിച്ചിരിക്കണം. ഉള്ളിൽ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ നല്ല ഹീറ്റിംഗ് മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. പുറത്തത്തെ തണുപ്പ് വെച്ച് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ അകത്ത് നമുക്ക് നല്ലോണം മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് ഈ ഹോട്ടൽ. അതുമാതിരി നല്ല സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളൊരു ഹോട്ടലാണ്. ഞാൻ ചെക്ക് ഇൻ ചെയ്ത ഹോട്ടൽ റാഡിസൺ ബ്ലൂ പോളർ ഹോട്ടലിൻ്റെ ഇൻറ്റീരിയേഴ്സാണിത്. നല്ലൊരു കാഴ്ചയാണ് എനിക്ക് കിട്ടിയത്. നല്ല സ്പെക്ടാക്കുലർ. വേറെ റിസപ്ഷനിസ്റ്റിൽ അവർ പറയുകയും ചെയ്തായിരുന്നു. എന്തായാലും കയറിയ ബിൽഡിങ്ങിൽ എലവേറ്റർ ഇല്ല, ചെറിയ പ്രശ്നം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ലഗേജൊക്കെ മേപ്പോട്ട് കയറ്റാനായിട്ട് കുറേ പാടുവേണ്ടി വന്നു. പക്ഷേ നല്ലൊരു വ്യൂ. എന്തായാലും റൂമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അതിഗംഭീരമായിട്ടുള്ള റൂമാണ്. പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ലഗേജൊക്കെ ആണെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പോഴും പുറത്തിരിക്കുകയാണ്. പെട്ടെന്നുള്ളൊരു എക്സൈറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് കാരണം മറന്നുപോയതാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് വളരെ സ്പേഷ്യസ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള റൂമാണ്. പിന്നെ ഈ ഒരു ഹോട്ടൽ എടുക്കാനുള്ള കാരണം തന്നെ നമുക്ക് തിരിച്ച് കമ്മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ എളുപ്പമാണ് എയർപോർട്ടിലേക്ക്. ലോങ്യെറിയൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു ലോങ്യെർബെൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന എയർപോർട്ട്. അപ്പം ആ എയർപോർട്ടിലേക്ക് തിരിച്ച് യാത്ര ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഇവിടുന്ന് എളുപ്പമാണ്. പിന്നെ ഹോട്ടലിൽ ചെന്ന് റിസപ്ഷനിൽ ചെന്നിട്ട് വേണം ഇനിയും ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ എനിക്ക് ബുക്ക് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടുള്ളത്. പിന്നെ ഇറങ്ങണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു പുറത്ത് പട്ടിക്ക് എങ്ങനെയാണ് തണുപ്പത്ത് സഹിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് അറിയത്തില്ല. എന്തായാലും വിൻഡ് പ്രൂഫ് ജാക്കറ്റൊക്കെ വേണം ഈ തണുപ്പത്ത് ഇറങ്ങണമെങ്കിൽ. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഇപ്പോൾ 9:50 മണിയായ സ്ഥിതിക്ക് ഇവിടെ ഇപ്പോൾ ടെമ്പറേച്ചർ എന്തായാലും 6 ഡിഗ്രി 5 ഡിഗ്രിയിലുള്ള രീതിയിലാണ് ഇപ്പം ഫോർകാസ്റ്റിൽ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വെതർ ഫോർകാസ്റ്റിൽ എന്തായാലും പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ എന്തായാലും ഫ്രീസിങ് 0 ഡിഗ്രി വരെയൊക്കെ ആയെന്നിരിക്കും സമ്മർ ആണെങ്കിൽ പോലും. ഒന്ന് ആലോചിച്ച് നോക്കും, പോളാർ സമ്മർ പോലും നമ്മൾ ഈ ഒരുമാതിരി സിംഗിൾ ഡിജിറ്റ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ ഒരു ഫ്രീസിങ് ഇതിലേക്ക് പോകുമ്പം പിന്നെ പോളാർ വിൻ്റർ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കും നമുക്ക് തന്നെ ഒന്ന് ഊഹിക്കേണ്ടതാണ്. എന്തായാലും വളരെ ഭംഗിയായിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്. എന്തായാലും ഇപ്പം പുറത്ത് എനിക്ക് ഇറങ്ങണമെന്നുണ്ട്. 2 ആൾക്കാർ തന്നെ ഇപ്പം അവരുടെ പുറത്തേക്ക് ഇറങ്ങിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പം മഞ്ഞ് ഈ മഞ്ഞുള്ളപ്പം പിന്നെ കുറച്ചുകൂടെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിരിക്കും എനിക്കൊന്ന്. പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ മഞ്ഞ് എന്തായാലും ഇപ്പം അധികം ഇല്ല, പോളാർ സമ്മർ ആയതുകൊണ്ട്. ഇനിയിപ്പം കൂടെ ചെക്ക് ഇൻ ചെയ്ത 2 ഇന്ത്യക്കാരുടെ ഒപ്പം നാളെ ഒരു ക്രൂസ് എന്തായാലും ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് പ്ലാനുണ്ട്. എന്തായാലും അതിന് നല്ല ടൈമിങ്ങും കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഉള്ളതായിരിക്കും. നോക്കട്ടെ.
I mean, it's normally information, and you repeat it again. So it's more or less the same. And that also means, of course, I'm not a politician, so I'm not necessarily politically correct. And whatever we start talking about here, it's politics. And now we're talking big politics.
Right.
Probably heard we are living off coal mining here. Yeah. What a bloody life. Now, the mining company, they have existed for 103 years now. But they lost money for 100 years. They had a little bit profit 3 years in the middle of the 1990s, but after those 3 years, the manager, Robert Hermansen, he had to go to prison. So they keep on losing money.
But they're still working, functioning
Yeah.
though, right?
Because according to the Svalbard Treaty, they wrote it just after the First World War, and this treaty is, I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
If I understand this correct, Norway governed this island on behalf of the treaty members. And in order to stay on the island, they made it clear you must use minerals or nature resources. If not, you got no reason to stay.
Right.
And therefore, we keep 20 coal miners working. And they don't work hard. And it's short days. And it's long weekends. And it's lots of vacation. But they say, as long as one man with a pick is sitting inside the mountain, we are coal miners. But if we quit 100%, then the Bergmeisteren, he will ask us to pack the suitcase and leave the island. Simple as that. And in the treaty, they also said all treaty nations or members of the treaty can place their citizens here. 3 conditions. 1, you needed a place to live. Oh, nice, with a house, of course. Second condition, they needed work. Last condition, the work gave them enough money so you can make a living on it. Here is no social security system, and today we don't use the word work because work is normally boring. So we say, as long as you can care for yourself, you are free to stay. Whether the money comes from private fundings, pension, grandmother, wherever, we don't care.
Right.
Here is no social security system, so here is no phone number to call for help. And of course, that means, when you've been looking around here, only young, healthy, beautiful people. Yeah, no handicapped, no old ones, and the oldest one you see while you stay here. Yeah.
Yeah, because they say you can't bury the dead here.
Yeah, that was a translation.
Yeah, that's what I was
mistake.
told, that if you die here, they will not bury you.
That's right. That's right. Because the ground is frozen. So it's just as humane as keeping your grandmother in a freezer in the basement.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Therefore we send the grandmother
But you still have
closer.
you still have a hospital here which is covered by the National Health System of Norway, so.
Yeah. And now, of course, when you mix plain wine, single malt, whiskey, cold beer, and 7-month winter,
This is good. Life is good.
that's
God has
a,
been nice to you.
that's a good start for a pregnancy also.
I
So of the, I was in the tax office 3 weeks ago, 2,304 citizens.
No.
Yeah, and we came from 51 different countries. More interesting, of the 2,304, 600 are children. Now you got it. The favorite hobby. We can't hide it. So when you see the houses are shaking around town, you know what's going on.
As long as they don't collapse, that's
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if they collapse. That's called orgasm.
That's very
We're so old, we know it.
Yeah.
The whole town is shaking. Wonderful. 3 kindergartens and a full school. And what happened? It must be another reason than coal mining we stay here. And I can tell you. this island is in such a strategic place here in the northern Atlantic, we can't leave it. From here, we got full control over the Barents Sea, east against Russia. Atlantic, south till Iceland, west till Greenland. And what happened? Early 80s, the American space organization NASA, they showed up. They wanted to start with satellite communication, and Norwegian government and NASA, they financed fiberglass cable across the sea from Norway up here. Kongsberg Satellite Service and NASA started their job, and we got one of the most important satellite stations for the American navigation system, GPS. And of course also, the sea is full of microphones. As soon as the Russians are launching a new ship in the shipyard, it's always a tourist there with a microphone. We register a frequency from the engine, the gearbox, the propeller, everything.
The Russians still claim ownership of this island.
They do.
Yeah.
But wherever they are sailing, we know the speed and the direction. Last time they changed oil on the engine, everything. Maybe you remember a few years back, the Russians had an accident with a submarine named Kursk. Proud to tell you, Norwegian intelligence discovered it first. And then it's very embarrassing when you call from Moscow and say, hello, I call from Norway. You must check on your submarine Kursk. It was explosion on board. And the answer is, how you know? Can't tell you. Up and go before 1925. And with the treaty, it shows up a governor and sheriff. Yeah, how popular you think that was? A sheriff in a lawless mining town. Now I can help you. It was of course bloody unpopular. Nobody wants a sheriff in the neighborhood. The good thing here is the coal mining company, they own all ground. It's private. And the governor, he was stupid enough to go straight into the office of the manager and introduced himself. And according to the book, the manager just looked at him and said, congratulations, sir. It's a big island. You can govern wherever you want. But this valley is mine and I'm manager. Good start, of course. Yeah, he needed a place to live. Sorry, sir, I'm not running a hotel. Choo-choo. In the end, Norwegian government forced the mining company to make a house for the governor, and you see up to the left, the red with white tower. There the governor should live if we turn the car a little bit more like this. There the governor should live, and in the horizon to the left, strange construction on the long legs, Cableway Central. And from the right, a straight line of wooden constructions. The manager placed everything so the steel cable carrying the buckets with coal should go straight over governor's house. Yeah, and one day when the split went up, it dropped down a steel wagon with 1 ton of coal. Yep, manager wrote in the diary, it was definitely not a success. It didn't kill the bastard. And if you go to the museum, you can see photos of governor's house. Norwegian government had to grant him more money, and he made an enormous hammock system of steel nets to protect the house, so they're living on social welfare. And he placed them on this side of the river on purpose. They should have no contact with humans to opposite side. That's how popular it's possible to be. Okay, Mr. Longyear started here half right up in the mountainside, and Longyear city started exactly on the 4 poles in the ground to the right, and it goes on 400 meters forward. To make a long story short, we lost it. 1943, Nazis showed up. Tactique was to burn everything when they left. They set fire to the town. We lost everything except the post office. Yeah, this tiny shed here, that was the post office. And of course we can laugh of this chicken house, but don't forget, it was no stores in Longyearbyen city. So if somebody sent anything with the mail, I guess it was a letter. Yeah. And transport was ship. And shipping season, June, July, August. So I guess it was open from time to time, those 3 months. Everything else here rebuilt after the war, the church, kindergarten, Alman's house and everything. Okay, careful with your neck, because the next is also on right side. It's simply a memory stone over John Monroe Longyear coming up here. And as you see on the ground, wooden fundaments coming up of the permafrost. That's all we got left of Longyear city and John Monroe Longyear. And the next will also, we lost 11. So far this year, 2. So hopefully a little bit down this year. But so far in the history book, and it goes until today, I managed to find only 1 year in the books where nobody has died here. 1983, a remarkable year. But the funny thing is also, in the graveyard, 30. Yep, just as you said, Don Aranis. As transport got better in the 1960s, if they had access to the body, they stopped burying people. They sent the body home to the family. That was a mass hall, and when it was finished and the painting was dry, it moved into the 12 barracks, 1,200 men. So it was 100 on each barrack. And in the labor contract, yeah, everything was adjusted there. Free house, free food, 2 bottles alcohol, 24 bottles beer for free each man every month. But in the bottom of the contract, as far to the bottom you can come, and with very small letters, it says a coal miner has half bucket water for cleaning himself every 8 days. Now you understand what conditions was.
Gross.
Terrible. Disgusting was it the first 10-15 years after the war. 100% male society, no babes, free food, house, alcohol. Yeah, it's only 2 things we never heard about. Prostitution or starving men. Yeah, and this white building to the left, it shows up 10 years later, 1955. It was community house with cinema, library, cafeteria and bar. And believe me or not, the white building, it looks like a house, so of course they named it Huset, because that means house. Warm water. All warm water comes from the power station where we are burning coal. And here comes a plumber, Kai, and his limping dog. We are talking next level. I cannot say it's children from 51 nations in the school, but we must, according to Norwegian law, help the children so they understand the teacher. Here they educate in Thai, Philippine, Ukraine, Russian, French, Finnish, German, English, Norwegian and Spanish. And if I remembered all, it is 12 different languages. They begin with iPads and laptops as soon as they manage to lift them. And yeah, Blackboard, I understand this is called Bluetooth today. And projector, yeah, don't ask me, I'm not there. I still use my cell phone for talking with people. Next is the green building. There you find a fitness studio. Children has named it Tarzan-fabriken or Tarzan factory after this film character with big muscles. 25-meter swimming hall, solarium, sauna, sport hall, with everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. The latest attraction there is arranged where the children are shooting with bow and arrow at electronic targets. They a little bit intelligent. They adopted the same system as they got inside the mountain. All tunnels has only a number. And you see on the pole to the right, 222. Up here goes road 222. And my colleague with red hair up there, she's coming from home now. The guy who nails up the numbers, he is a real drunk. So here he started on the first brown house on left side of the road. Yeah, that's number 1. He walked up to the next brown one, also on left side. That's number 3. And when he was nearly sober one day, he realized he had forgotten the green one. It also belongs till 222. So first time they called me from 222 and a half and wanted a taxi. I thought it was a joke. But the house has address 222 and a half. Next road 224. Next 226. Of course it's much easier for a foreigner to say 222 house 5 instead of Keiser Wilhelms gate nummer 5 or Blå Klokkeveien nummer 5, something like this. So stupid with the names, much better with numbers. Next is then 226, and you see the bus stop here in 226, well prepared for old and handicapped people. Yeah, now we don't care, they don't exist here. Next is 228. Here came the avalanche last winter, destroyed 2 houses. Nobody died. Funny thing was, they sent up a man with an excavator and a lot of containers, and the order was to remove the destroyed houses. He took 4 houses. So when people came back from work and they wondered, where is my house? He said, I thought it looked very destroyed and old. Can't you just find another place to live? Yeah, but I had my clothes inside and also the refrigerator with the food. Yeah, go to the food store, man. 230, avalanche came down also here 2 years ago. Took 12 houses, killed 2 persons. As I say, you don't die of age here. And everything you need or believe you need can be found on the left side. Pubs, bars, restaurants, shop, alcohol store, food store, pharmacy, bank, post, ATM machine. Everything is there within 200 meters. Yeah, and one more, kindergarten. We can't hide 600 children that easy. They are everywhere.
Yeah.
So, to the left may be important, wooden yellow colored, it's the hospital. Dentist and physiotherapy, always open, just call the doorbell and somebody will come and say, welcome. Doctor is living in the next road, so he is never far away. And the next big brown on the right side is Svalbard University, Norwegian Polar Institute and Svalbard Museum in the end over on the right side. And the new campus, straightforward. This is section 1, here comes 2 more sections. It's an international university. Language kept at English, and as long as 50% of the students are Norwegians, there is no semester money to pay. And also here you see under the university the ground is frozen, so we are just drilling holes in the ground. We place the steel beam in the hole and we make all houses on legs. makes it very flexible also. Runway with the light on, so the pilot knew approximately where to land. And over on the left side, with white door and black chimney, Terminal 1, Gate 1. And also funny to read, it was charter traffic from this airport directly to Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, all until 1975. But I should also say, what actually brought both Allied forces and Nazis to the island during Second World War was the need for meteorology. For Allied forces, when was best time to send the convoys from England up to Murmansk to support Soviet, and of course for the Nazis, when is best time to attack. And the Nazis, they placed a meteorologic station up here a little bit further up the valley on the right side in a red cabin. You see it better when we come closer. 5 meteorologists was working there, and they had in the beginning of the war regular flights going up from Berlin, maybe, I don't know, up here with supplies for the men. But the Nazis, they were using the Tundra like runway, bumpy as I told you, and one of their Junkers is now parked behind the red houses, the blue houses on left side. And now I hope governor and the antiquar and the museum has got money, because now I wanted them to take this out of the sand and bring it up in the surface, because this is also a part of the history. So then we can bring it back. And yeah, meteorologic station. 5 meteorologists was working there, and they were sending to Berlin everything a meteorologist should report. And in London, they were discussing, shall we send up a bomber plane and kiss them goodbye? But you remember, the Allied forces, they cracked the code on the Enigma machine. They were coding the text in. And after they cracked the code, they understood the Nazis are doing a wonderful job. So they agreed to keep them busy. And this was maybe the last Nazi camp we took down after Second World War. September 1945, when the Norwegians came up here, they didn't know the war was over. They kept on sending to Berlin millibar and temperature, wind speed, direction, everything. But by that time, one of the 5 had starved to death. One had been so desperate he'd shot himself, and it was only 3 of them that could come back to Germany. Also a part of story, and also of course a sad part. But now we shall soon see the red cabin up to the right. Now it's behind a grey one. Meteorologic station was. Can you imagine sitting up here for 4-5 years, no supplies, and you are forgotten? Terrible. They flock to the island. first dockyard we got now on the right side is for commercial use, and it's Svalbard Husky. A little bit forward we come to dockyard number 2, that is Green Dogs. And on the right side also closed coal mine number 6. And you see the wooden constructions, they stopped here. Mine 6 was the last coal mine with cable as transport. So after we had the fiberglass cable up here, it was of course television, telephone, later world's best internet, and a flying start for science. Pyramid, you will hang seals. Houses in the middle and dogs to opposite side. Idea was, if it came by a polar bear, he shall not go direct for the dog and eat him. He go first for what he consider is food, the seal. And when the polar bear was then close, then the dogs started to bark. The man heard it, he could come out, shoot the bear and make money. So that was the idea behind it. This is more or less a replica, because a trapper will of course never keep 100 dogs. Okay, mine 7 up in the hill here. Yeah. We can see it as Aurora Borealis, and they see how this is making changes on the planet and changes in the climate. And what I actually find most interesting with this science is, yeah, I think we must go back some 12-15 years, because then they told us, as the activity looked like on the sun must have a cyclus close till 12,000 years. Yeah, how interesting could that be? And as I remember the story, it was only one group of scientists that shouted hallelujah, and they went completely ballistic when it was known. The glaciologue, those who study ice and glaciers, because they knew the ice age cyclus over Scandinavia is in a cyclus of 12,000 years, but they've never been able to explain why. Must be a reason. We've had 7 ice ages the last 100,000 years. And then it shows up a solar scientist, probably a Chinese, yeah, with these thick glasses and funny front teeth. He say the sun has the same sign. We didn't see that sign, never mind. And so they believe when the sun is then more active, yeah, it comes more plasma, temperature is rising. They believe it will be so warm in the end, the inland ice in Antarctica and Greenland will begin to melt. Next scenario, sea level is rising. Next scenario, with enough fresh water in the sea, the Gulf Stream that brings us the warm water from Mexican Gulf all the way up to the North Pole, it will close down. And the last and final scenario, sun back to normal activity and no Gulf Stream, a new ice age. That's what they are predicting. Yeah, I must find better offerings for Tor and Odin because this is not good enough. We need some magic words now, that's for sure. The gate is down. Yeah, with my sunglasses I can see the contour of a big dish here in front of us. But I was hoping the guys from India actually had some magic words they could say now.
We can, but I don't want to use it, you know.
Yeah,
I want to leave this country safe and sound.
yeah, I sent out, this is a strong radar of course, and I sent out some guys yesterday and say it's a reason the gate is down because the strong radar and testicles, that's no good for us boys, therefore we normally just send the women out. They don't have to worry about testicles. Okay, I'm not sure, should we go out and try to make photos?
Sure.
Okay, I open the door. Totally white, but this is actually late in season for him. Okay, we got him. Yeah, so we have seen the reindeer, and that of course represents 33.3% of all animals I've got here. So he could just go straight into the hotel and have a gin tonic. Yeah. Today it's industrial area, as you see. Not the most beautiful anymore, but of course it's beautiful if you love coal. Okay, I make a super fast, 7 minutes. My friends miss me by 12. We just go up there so you can make a photo of this concrete entrance, and the idea behind these storages with seeds is of course to take care of all genetic variations we need within agriculture. This storage is the most popular one on the planet. 60% of all humanity is using for agriculture is stored inside the mountain here, and yeah, all countries are using it. The last country that showed up with seeds was North Korea and Kim Jong-un, the rocket boy. And yeah, the tunnel goes in about 150 meters. Total area inside about 1,000 square meters. So it's simply a storage with frozen seeds. Nothing else. Oh, lots of bumps. You see the concrete entrance here straight forward, and I actually believe the best photo is here from below, about from here and up, because if you continue you will only have the piles with gravel and machineries and all this. I shall turn the car around while you're making photos. Let's use a couple of minutes.
അങ്ങനെ തീരത്തിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് എത്തിക്കഴിഞ്ഞു.
Some wildlife, as that's the most popular place to spot it, as there is a lot of food for the fish is there, whales come into that area, or seals, and sometimes polar bears. Of course, it's not the guaranteed that you're there at that time and you see it, but that's the most popular area to spot it. So should be there about 3:20. We'll spend there 20 minutes, and then we'll head to Pyramiden. So we should arrive around 4 o'clock.
So then there was this the Fjord boat cruise to the Pyramiden, which is actually an abandoned coal mine city, which was used to be run by the Russians a long time back. And the whole city was conservated by the Russians way back in the late 90s, following a disaster in one of the coal mines. And so the coal mining they literally stopped, and then the people had to leave the place. And so we first docked in Pyramiden, and along the way we had actually stopped at one of the glaciers named the Nordenskiöld glacier, where the boat basically stopped for us to take some photos. So during that time we were able to spot a couple of polar bears, but it was not actually easy. We needed binoculars to kind of like focus on to them, to actually view them. As I say, you know it's real when you can't describe how you feel.
പോളാർ ബെയർസ് ഉണ്ടെന്ന് പറയുന്നു, പക്ഷേ അത് ഇവിടുന്ന് അത്രയും അങ്ങോട്ട് ക്ലിയർ ആകുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷെ രണ്ടെണ്ണം നമുക്ക് ഇവിടുന്ന് കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പം ഈ ഗ്ലേസർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ശരിക്കും ഒരു നല്ല ഒരു ബാരിയറായിട്ടാണ് വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. കുറച്ച് ഐസിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളുണ്ടെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. Those are the stuff that I'm seeing now.
About 10 plus.
Yeah. I think those two are the polar. Yeah, they are polar bears. I think so.
I don't know what's the importance of this boat, but I've taken several pictures of the boat, but I don't know what is there. The people there?
Yeah.
On the boat?
Yeah.
I thought it was some sort of a relic.
Yeah.
I took pictures. I will delete all now. It makes no sense
Yeah.
taking a picture of this.
Understand that nothing is gonna happen, but you know, sometimes we do like a polar bear wandering around. That's why we need to be careful. And also, it's really an abandoned town, so everything is kind of broken. So please watch your step. Please stay as one group. Why is this important? Because a polar bear, he has a psychology like a high school bully. He's never compete with anything that is bigger than him. So if you ever see a polar bear, first rule: never run. Because if you're running, he assumes you're an easy target and you're gonna be his dinner. So if it might happen with others, we see a polar bear, we just group as much as we can, and he will assume that we're one big animal and he will try to avoid us. So everything gone bad, I'm gonna take him down, it's okay. So yeah, they even give the bullets to me. So hello everyone again. As my name is Danny, this is Pyramiden. So, usually right from this point we start talking about Pyramiden's history. And usually people started from 1910 when first people, they were Swedish, they came here, and it was kind of like a no man's land, and they claimed the ownership of this land because they realized there's a lot of coal here. You can see it's still there on the mountain. These black rocks is still coal. So, and actually these people gave this town the name Pyramiden because of the mountain on the kind of like a top on the other mountain. You see this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of look like a shape of pyramid. That's why they named it Pyramiden. So, what happened next? They came to this land. You know, people were obsessed about mining coal at the very beginning of the 19th century. The way they used to be obsessed with digging gold back in those days. But the Swedish people, they never actually mined it here because they didn't have enough experience to mine coal in such harsh condition. They just kept the ownership, and then they sold this land to a private company, half Russian, half English, by the name Russian Group. It was like, you know, they were making profits from reselling this land, and this company, Russian Group, also sold this land to a Soviet state company, Trieste Arctic in 1932, I guess. And this company still owns this town, this company still works here, this company is still mining in Barentsburg, and even I am the employer of this company. So they're still doing good, still doing kind of great, you know. Before the Second World War, this town was still under construction. And actually, when I first heard this story, I was wondering how come the Second World War really happens here, but it really happened. In 1941, all of the people, all population of Svalbard were evacuated because in 1943, two German battleships, Svanhorst and Tirpitz, and I guess you are familiar with the name Tirpitz, one of the biggest vessels of the Third Reich. They came here and they did destroy Barentsburg, they did destroy Longyearbyen. Never came here because of the difficult ice situation we usually have here, and also, you know, this town was still under construction, so it's kind of like no point destroying something that it doesn't exist at all. So, and people actually came here in 1946, and it took them 10 years to create like a little bit living environment and to start the mine. So the mine started working since 1956, and it was working till 1998, the year they abandoned this town. So you see this writing on the wagon. It said that it contains the coal from the last ton of coal they mined in the mine of Pyramiden, and it happened in the 31st of March of 1998. So since 1998 to 2008, this town was totally abandoned and it was 10 years of plundering because people still were coming here, they were interested in this place, and actually they, you know, like a real plundering. Actually, I've met a guy who is still working on Svalbard. He even owns a ship. He's like a tour leader of a ship, and he told me that he took like a not very big but a monument of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. I guess you heard about him, like this big, and it's still standing in one of the Longyearbyen's bar, and he sold it to Longyearbyen's bar in exchange of one big box of a beer. So actually now and I'm not making it up, it happened 2 weeks ago, I used to spoke with him. If you ever see a ship called Stockholm, you can ask the guy who is in charge. And maybe he will not tell you the story because now he is ashamed of it, because I made him feel like this. So, now you realize what was going on for 10 years. And since 2008, this company, Triestarti Kugel, now it's Russian state company, still works here. Since that they start to develop tourist environment here. So right now we have a hotel, the only habitated building there. It does have heating, electricity, all the locals living here. Right now it's about 30 of us. So that's how we do it. Right now we're gonna go this way. You will be following me, and I'm just asking you to stay as one group. And please, if you like taking photos, totally okay. We really appreciate it. But please do not make other people wait for you. Thanks for your understanding, and please follow me this way.
Cold here now. It's cold here now. When the earth began first, it was really hot. That's why the volcanoes were coming up. So cold now. That's why there's no trees here now.
Something is written on that. I don't know what is it. It's in Russian, I think. Since 1946, I guess, to 1998. So if you just take a quick look around,
what you're able to see. So behind your back, this yellow building and the field around it, it's our helipad. It used to be a helipad and it's still a helipad, and it's still taking helicopters because, yeah, right now it's summer, you see the water is clean of ice, but the other seasons it's almost, it's almost impossible to get here by the ship. So the only way we're still getting connected with the mainland is only helicopters. So these two buildings, the yellow, kind of like a yellow, is our power plant, and it's still using the coal that is left from Pyramiden mine. The gray one is our garage, and also it holds our diesel generators to generate some electricity for us. When I'm telling you other things, I just have to aware you that Pyramiden is not it's not only the mining town. You see, it's completely unique town. It was also kind of like a showcase for the Soviet Union to prove to the Western country that they are able to create communistic paradise in every place on the earth. So this is not a usual mining town, trust me. They used to invest way more money than they were getting for mining coal. Coal is not that expensive. Coal is not that precious at all. But sometimes I guess it's not about mining, it's about sending a message that we, the Soviets, can do everything and the communism is better. You will see a lot of evidence of this. So this corner of the city, they were using it for food production. So the great building used to have pigs, yellow used to have cows, orange was used as a vegetable storage, and this building right to the orange one, the small one, was used as a refrigerator because it used to have a green plant built close to it. So also they would try to prove that Soviet Arctic paradise could be self-sufficient town, but sorry to say it wasn't. Because people used to say that it was more expensive to grow food here than to bring it from the mainland. Because okay, you have a cow here, what it's supposed to eat? Grass? No, this grass was imported from the mainland as well. Grass do not grow in Arctic. So if you just dig up some potatoes in this soil, will it grow? No, you have to treat it with special chemicals, with anything like that. So as I told you before, it's about sending a message. It's about, Soviets really like to show off in front of Western countries, and Pyramiden was open even in the coldest years of the Cold War. A lot of foreign people used to come here just to take a look what's going on, because this town is pretty unique, trust me. So in 1970s they built themselves slag brick factories, and they started to build really big buildings like this brown one. This was built in 1980s, and this was used as a dormitory for a single man. So, and they used to call it London. Sorry to say, no one knows why. We don't know the story behind this name, but we know the story behind this and the other 4-floor building over there. It used to be a dormitory for a single woman and unmarried couples, and they used to call it Paris. And we don't know the story behind this name. So, Pyramiden, they are celebrating the finishing of construction of Paris. Great parties going on all around the town, and they used to have a very famous Soviet actress came here. And in USSR, people in kind of was wearing pretty similar clothes, but she was wearing like the fanciest dress Pyramidens ever seen. So all the people were asking, oh my god, where did you get that beauty from? And she's like, oh, I just came back from some cinema festival from Paris, and that's why they named this place Paris. This is totally a true story. But there is totally not a true story, a legend that there is a tunnel. It's a mining tunnel, so some people say that it was a tunnel between London and Paris. Unmarried males, unmarried females, something might happen. So, and some people also used to say that they even call this town La Manche because it's connecting London and Paris. Sorry to say, it sounds beautiful, but it's not a true story at all. Check it twice, no unmarried females at all. So,
The Svalbard Museum was actually another interesting place to visit in Longyearbyen. The museum actually kind of displays artifacts from the history of Svalbard since 400 years of its settlement, and it has a lot of exhibits with regards to local plants and animals, and it kind of like gave us a brief like introduction about the global seed vault, where all the seeds from different parts across the globe are kind of like preserved in this particular global seed vault. And like in case of future disaster or like like catastrophe or wars, the whole place is kind of utilized to preserve them.
Is 1 meter and 40 centimeters, so a bit more comfortable than what it used to be here. So they don't have to crawl in mine number 7 today, but they walk around like ski jumpers. They walk around like that in the mine, like this. So it's very strenuous for their backs after a while. But it's not as physical in mine 7 as it used to be here. In 1916, John Monroe, he would sell mine 1 and Longyearbyen to a Norwegian company. And that's the Nordenskiöld Norwegian company, big Norwegian. And that's the same company of production since. So they will turn 103 years old this year, in November. But in 1920, only 4 years after they bought that mine from John Monroe, they had a very bad accident in the mine. And that's because when you cut coal, methane gas is released, and that's very explosive. But the miners aren't necessarily scared of a methane gas explosion, but they're scared of the coal dust that will be ignited, because that's extremely
It's a combination of coal dust and the methane.
Yeah.
These are powerful than TNT.
Yeah,
it's as
it's
trinitrotoluene.
extremely explosive. And there is so much coal dust just everywhere, just floating in the air or even on the ground. So because of that methane gas explosion, it started a fire that will lit up all the coal dust in the entire mine. So the 26 men who was working there at that moment, they lost their lives during that explosion. And it's not a very big mine, so no wonder it actually spread to all the tunnels. You can actually see the cemetery from that accident between the church and Husa. You can see some white crosses there. But only 4 men who lost their lives in mine number 1 are buried there because they couldn't find all the bodies. But there are also some people who lost their lives in 1918 from the Spanish flu. And also someone that's been residents on Svalbard, but that are now cremated. Because you can't be buried there otherwise, like we spoke a bit about in the car. So you can't be born here unless it's very urgent. And you can't, well, you can die here, but you can't be buried here unless you've been a resident. So it's a very strange society.
But are they residents?
You can't be born here because?
Well, they don't have the resources at the hospital.
Ah,
There is a midwife, so if it's urgent, you will get help.
okay.
But if you need ultrasound, anything like that, you need to go down
In
to the...
Pyramiden they had a maternity ward, they were telling us.
In where?
Pyramiden?
Oh, yeah, they did.
They
Yeah.
said they had the delivery system there.
But back then it was probably more difficult traveling down as well, because now you have like daily flights. So you even have their own. We have our own ambulance flight here. They can come up and bring down anyone who needs to go. But yeah, you can't.
So how many people we said Svalbard resident? You mean Norwegian citizens?
No, you mean
Or you have Svalbard citizens only and not Norwegian citizens?
both.
Both.
Yeah. So you could be from any country.
Is there a different passport for Svalbard people residents? No.
No. The thing with Svalbard, like even though you live here, say if you're not Norwegian and you live on Svalbard, it won't give you a citizenship in Norway or residency in Norway. You need to apply for that separately.
Okay.
Because you don't need a visa or anything to stay here. You can just come up, you can apply for a job and you can stay. But even though to get here, you need to go through Norway. So say if you're from Russia and you want to live in Longyearbyen, you need to go through Norway. So you need to apply for a visa in Norway to actually travel through.
So the people who are working on Pyramiden, they had to come through Norway before they could enter and work in Pyramiden?
Some might not come with a Russian flight because the Russians do fly to the North Pole from here.
Okay.
But mostly, like if you're coming with Scandinavian Airlines or Norwegian Airlines, you would go through Oslo. Yeah. So it's very, strange. So you need to, you will have your own citizenship, your own passport. So you need to apply for Norway. So 1 year after that gas explosion in mine number 1, in 1921, they would start production in mine 2, which is here. Mine 2 was later divided into 2 mines. So today we call them mine 2A and mine 2B. And that's because during the Second World War, the German Nazis, they came up to Svalbard because they wanted control of the weather stations up north. So in 1941, all the people in town, they were evacuated to England and Scotland. But during the next 2 years, it was a bit back and forth for these Germans. The weather project up north wasn't very successful. So in 1943, 2 German ships sailed to Svalbard. One went for Barentsburg and the other for Longyearbyen. And here they would burn down a lot of the houses and buildings in both towns. And some of these Germans, they also came into Longyearbyen and they put fire on mine 2. And the entrance back then used to sit here. And because of all the energy and coal dust they will find in a coal mine, big parts of mine 2 burnt for 19 years. That's a very long time. So for the people who lived in Longyearbyen after the war, they said that it was like one red eye looking down at them in the middle of the night because it was glowing for 19 years. So people came back, of course, once the war was over, because they wanted to continue coal production. It was good money in exporting coal back then, before the prices dropped in the 70s. But there weren't very many places to live after the war, because most of the houses had been burned down. So after the war, they would build up Norwegian from 1946 to 49. Have you been up there?
Where?
It's called the new town, Norwegian. It's quite far up towards the
You might have
glaciers.
gone on the bus to Britain.
Yeah. And you can see there are lots of barracks up there, and that's where the coal miners would live after the war. They would also live in what was called Svalbard City. There's a nice restaurant there now called glacier, and this is where they would live. So they would work in mine 2 and also mine number 5 and 1B sometime after the war. Because it's very normal for mining communities that you sort of live where the entrance to your mine is. And now they would work in mine 2B. You can see the entrance just at the edge of town there. You most likely see in the entrance to mine 2B, it looks like a building up on the mountainside, quite far up. If you have the fjord in your back, if you look up to your left towards the glacier, you will see there is a building up there. No one lives there, obviously, even though there are lights up there in winter. Pay for like any refurbishments or anything like that.
Okay.
But I work for a subsidiary of the coal company. So because the thing is, because the government owns the company, and they can't really work within tourism the way that we do, so that's why they created a subsidiary of the coal company.
So the tourism and money generated goes to the coal company?
No, it goes through the subsidiary of the coal company. So we have our own economy. They all pay my salary. Yeah. Do you have any questions about this map here, or is it clear? Yeah?
Yeah.
We can have a look at this map here. A bigger map of mine 3, where we're at now. So we're out in the day facility now, and towards the end of the tour, I will take in a total of 300 meters into the mine. We'll go into this main tunnel. First 250 meters, where we'll go into this side tunnel. And this is where our seed bank is, the entrance to our seed bank. And then we'll continue another 50 meters into a second side tunnel. And here we're storing something else than seeds. Have you heard about the Arctic World Archive? Not that many people have. Because during the last 2 years, Mine 3 has more or less become a high-tech mine. So not only are we storing seeds here, but we're also storing films with data.
So the global seed is part of the gold mine in this project?
The global seed vault?
Yeah.
Not the vault, but the seed bank.
Seed bank.
So we kind of have the room where to store it, but Norwegian, Nordic Gene Bank, they're responsible for the seeds, and they also are responsible for the global seed vault. So this is where it all started.
Okay.
But they decided to build a global seed vault here on Svalbard. There were actually electricity, but it used to be colder in the mountain than it is right now. So you can definitely see that climate changes very clearly on Svalbard. They have to find new building techniques now. The tunnel that we're going down in is 3.7 kilometers long. So you can actually go through the entire mountain and exit on the other side. There's been very good ventilation in the mine here because you have air or fans sort of going there through. There are 4 of these main tunnels and a lot of these side tunnels. And these are very spacious, as you will see once we're going into the mine, because they would use electric locomotives to transport workers in, equipment in, and also to transport the coal out. While these areas here, that's where the working height was from 60 to 90 centimeters. So this is where they had to crawl to get the coal out. We call these areas Strasse in Norwegian, which is another word they picked up from German, Strasse, which means a street. But in English we call them a long wall. So you can say they worked in a long street against a long wall of coal that they would cut. So it's actually quite impressive how they worked every day. No wonder they got very bad knees after a while, because this mine is actually so big that you can put an entire Oslo city inside of it. Not in population, but in square meters, and actually have room left after you put it in. Have you been to Oslo?
Yeah, actually, we were in Oslo.
Yeah, you were in Oslo. You probably walked down that shopping street, Karl Johan, that goes up to our Royal Palace, right?
Yeah. We lived on the corner.
Oh, yeah, on the corner there. So so I can give you a comparison, and then you can understand how big it actually is. Because the distance from here to here is the same distance as between Oslo Central Station and our Royal Palace. And that's the entire shopping street. And then you will still have room left. So it's so if you ever go to Oslo again, feel free to crawl down that street. You can get a feeling of how they worked. And most people do it every Saturday night anyway. So it's a massive mine, really. So when you look at the mountain here, just imagine it's an entire mountain. So it's a big one. Usually made things that he could use at home and give away to people in town. So he made candle holders. Put a candle here, make it all cozy. So he gave this to people in town for Christmas. It's not very pretty, but it's very heavy and very creative. You can use it as polar bear protection at your cabin if you want. But before Oddmund, a Swedish man was working here as a blacksmith. His name was Kalle. He's pictured on the wall over here. But I think he was actually looking forward to leave Svalbard at one point to move to a paradise compared to this place that's warmer. Because down on the table here, you can see there's a holiday catalogue from May 1989. I think he was dreaming of moving to Kramfors in Sweden. It looks like a paradise compared to Svalbard. There are trees there. I've had some Swedes on some of my tours here. I asked them if this is a paradise. They said no.
Well, he probably didn't know that.
Yeah, you probably didn't know. It looks very nice.
Yeah, it looks nice.
And here you can see a drawing of the scraper that was used on the second shift, the scraping shift.
Yeah.
You can see a picture of that one over here. Be a little careful with the So this is the one they used to scrape the coal out of the long wool.
Yeah.
That was custom made by the blacksmith. And to be able to pull this back and forth in the long wool, they would attach cable wires to both sides. So one cable wire would go all the way into the end of the long wool through one of these pulleys, come back to the side tunnel through a second pulley, and was then connected to an electric winch that was sitting further down the side tunnel. While the other one would go straight out through a pulley and was connected to that same winch. So now you sort of have a loop that can pull it back and forth. That winch they used was called a Russian spindle, mainly because it was made in Russia, and it had two handles. So a man would stand like that all day on the scraping shift to pull this back and forth. I guess that was very boring after a while, and he was probably very good at drinking beer, don't you think? But the driver actually had to be told when to lift the other handle, because he was sitting further down the side tunnel, so he couldn't look into the long wall to see where this was. And also because the long walls, they're from 160 to 200 meters long, it's impossible to see that far into the darkness. So for the driver to know when to lift the other handle, there was a man lying all the way into the end of the long wall. He was called a long wall man. He lay there on his stomach, and in his hands he held two electric wires. And when he touched the ends of those wires, a bell it would ring.
Bell.
A bell out on the side tunnel. So he could listen to the signals from the bell, and then the driver knew how to control this. So one long ring, then had to stop, 2 rings, ding ding, you had to pull it in, and 3 rings out. So you had to pay attention, otherwise you would actually...
Complicated.
because the man with the bell, he actually had signals where he told that he was not following his instructions. Yes, so if he heard 6 rings, the local man was mad. So you had to pay attention. So the coal would collect in these areas, we would scrape it out and dump it down into the carts. So there were 3 people on that shift. The driver, the longwall man, and the last one called a breaker. And the breaker's responsibility was to move the carts as they were filled up with coal. And meanwhile, they had to stop this, so they wouldn't scrape the coal outside of the carts. So the breaker, he also had to signal to the driver and tell him to stop this, but he couldn't use his voice because there was too much noise in the tunnels. So he used his headlamp instead. This meant drive, this meant stop. Can you imagine all the miscommunication they must have had?
I mean, of course, they would have had.
Exactly. So they had to pay attention, they had to be, set for what they were supposed to do on that shift. Lots of apples.
Okay.
So maybe she was feeling a bit like home. Or maybe not. So 5 apples, full of fly.
So the coal miners actually sat on the wagon here.
Yeah, they sat there and they were driven in.
Oh, when they driven in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from here they
Probably very cold winds.
It's actually getting cooler here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still getting colder.
Yeah.
You can feel the permafrost.
Yeah.
So watch out for some of these railways.
Yeah.
We'll make a quick stop here because we can see a coal seam here.
Yeah.
This one is very thin, so it'd be very slim to work here. Because the thickness of the coal seam, that would also be the working height. But there are 5 coal seams around Longyearbyen, but only one of them is thick enough and had high enough quality that they wanted to mine it. This is not the one they mined, you will see that further down. The yellow rocks there, that is sulfur, which is byproduct of coal. Coal contains both organic and inorganic sulfur that sort of comes out of the coal while it's being compressed.
Right.
And the brown parts here, that's iron. There's lots of iron in the mountains surrounding Longyearbyen. Although I only mine the coal here though. And you can see that the coal out here is very porous. And that is a chemical reaction that happens when coal comes in contact with oxygen. It gets very porous, and that's why the dynamite they used, an example, that was custom made for coal mining. It's not like a huge explosion that would, work on the mountain as well. It was just make the coal seam collapse. But further in, it would be very dense, very hot. I'm just waiting to see if there are any diamonds here.
You should have brought a strainer.
Yeah. It's very, you can break it very easily. You can see how shiny it is on the inside there when you break it.
Wow. Oh yeah, that's very soft.
Yeah.
Why is it shiny now?
Well, once the thing with coal, if it's being out like that in contact with oxygen for a while,
It becomes shiny?
it turns matte and also more like powdery. But further in, it would be very shiny like that.
Okay.
Maybe it's diamonds.
Yeah.
You could break it down into pieces, find out the diamond inside, probably not.
Maybe, who knows?
Yeah,
I
never
think it's a
know.
bit too early actually. Maybe not, hopefully not. If you look down the tunnel here, you can see there are these shelves sort of hanging down from the ceiling. And on top of every shelf there, you can see there is crushed limestone, crushed chalkstone. It's almost like a flour, very fine powder. And this is something they put up to prevent an explosion in the mine from reaching the facility.
Okay.
And in the explosion there is a pressure, there's also fire. And the explosion would try to find its way out due to that pressure. And it would make all the planks there flip up. So the entire tunnel would be filled with that powder. And it's kind of like throwing sand on a fire.
Oh, okay.
So this is called a chalk powder barrier or a stone dust barrier. And they have this same system in mine number 7 today. Hopefully they won't have to use it. They haven't used it here, but it's actually a method that works in case of an explosion. And here you can see the calling system, internal communication system.
Here is the wider coal. No.
Yeah. There's a seam.
That's all full there.
Yeah.
Must have taken years to set those things up.
Yeah. They did the thing with mine 3, it's called mine 3, but it wasn't the third mine that had production, it was actually the second last.
Okay.
But it's because they would kind of work their way in here from 1939.
Okay.
And then they had a big break, and then they started again in 1969. So in 1939, that's when they figured out there was a good coal seam to work in here. It was big enough.
I thought the whole wall will be coal.
The wall?
The whole wall will be just coal, nothing but anything except the coal, but that's not the way it is. You have just lines of coal.
Yeah. That's what's the seam, the layer, sort of. So you will see it a bit when we come further down, you can see the thicker coal seam. But in the long wall, the entire wall would be of coal.
Oh,
It's just in the tunnels that it's made bigger so they can transport it out.
Okay, that's what. Okay, if it is only this much coal, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating to see how the seams kind of go.
Yeah. You see.
So now we're standing about 250 meters into one of the main tunnels of the mine. And where we're standing now, we have about 300 meters. I don't know what those are feet. So do you know what could 1 foot be in centimeters? Any idea?
I think.
No, that's a kilos into the pounds.
Because I know 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters.
Yeah.
It should.
1 inch is around 2.5.
We never tried that, huh?
Well, I think it's actually could be 0.5 miles, maybe.
Probably around.
Oh, I can find that out later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this tunnel though is about 2 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 miles. Very long. And all the way up on the top of the mountain, that's where Svalbard satellite station is.
Yeah, the one which we stopped by yesterday.
That's the cool, right? That's
Yeah, and that's
That's
the
the
hole up
core.
here. You can see it all the way up here. Just below the ceiling there. Yeah. And that's the one they mined here because it's big enough. You can also see a thin one down there, all the way down here.
yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, so that they don't touch.
No, that's too thin.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Nah.
Too thin.
And I couldn't work in there either because this is thick enough so you could actually crawl in there.
Yeah.
And this is the same seam that they mined in the other coal mines around Longyearbyen. It goes through the mountains like a layer in a cake. So all these valleys, they were created from melting glaciers, melting ice. So here you can more or less see the working height of mine 3. It's relatively thick over here,
Yeah.
but if you look up there, you will see that it's thinner.
Yeah.
And that's how the working height could vary because the thickness of the coal seam varied.
Yeah, that's true.
But say if the working height was only less than about 40 centimeters or around that, they couldn't use those pit props for support because they were too big, even though they came in different sizes. So for those areas, they would just use timber like that to shore up the long walls with. So chopped off a small piece. They did use a lot of timber or logs just to shore up the main tunnels or the tunnels. So here in Svalbard, we actually say that when you visit the mines at the same time, you're also visiting Svalbard's forests because there are lots of trees here. So now you're in a mine and you're also in a forest. And you can see that the tunnel here has been very well secured, very well bolted. And that's something 2 coal miners have done during the last year. Because when the guiding company that I worked for was established 2.5 years ago, people weren't allowed to go into the mine at all because it wasn't considered safe.
Right.
But now we can take people gradually further and further in. I know it looks rusty, but that's something they've done on purpose to make it look more authentic. You don't want to have shiny steel in an old mine, right? Makes sense. Let's go into the side tunnel again.
ഹൈക്കിങ്ങിൻ്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് ഇറങ്ങിയപ്പം നല്ല ഈ ഹൈറ്റിലെത്തിക്കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പം ഒന്ന് എടുക്കാമെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ച ഒരു ഫോട്ടോയാണ്. സീനിയർ പറയാനാണ് എക്സ്പ്ലോറേഷൻ ത്രൂ ഹൈക്കിംഗ് അക്രോസ് ദി ഹില്ലി ഏരിയാസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അപ്പം അതൊന്ന് ട്രൈ ചെയ്തതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ എന്തായാലും അവർ വഴി എന്തായാലും കട്ട് ചെയ്ത് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പം എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു ഓഫ് ലിമിറ്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അത് നോക്കിയാണ്, അതിൻ്റെ അപ്പുറം നമുക്ക് ക്രോസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അതാണ് മലകളുടെ മണ്ടയ്ക്ക് കയറിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, അതായത് ഒരുമാതിരിപ്പെട്ട ലെവലിലേക്ക് കയറിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ ഒരു കാഴ്ച നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നത്. എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത് ഇവിടുത്തെ ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ ടവറാണ്. എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയിട്ട് സർവീസ് പ്രൊവൈഡറിൻ്റെ ആണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. ടെലിനോർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു സർവീസ് പ്രൊവൈഡർ ഉണ്ട്, അവരുടെയാണ്.
So this is actually one of the most like unique experience while I was in Svalbard, the dog sledding, where we used the huskies. I mean, the huskies were actually a mix between the Alaskan breed and the Greenland breed. The Alaskan breed is actually known for speed, whereas the Greenland was actually known for being resistant to the cold. And so a mix was actually, I mean, the perfect mojo for the dog sledding over here. And I mean, like, we kind of traversed around 10 to 15 miles with these huskies.
അലാസ്കൻ ഹസ്കീസിനെ നമ്മൾ കെട്ടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇവർക്ക് ഒരുതരം പ്രത്യേക എക്സൈറ്റ്മെൻ്റ് ആണ്. ഇവരെ കെട്ടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞ് സ്ലെഡിങ്ങിലേക്കുള്ള ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ അവർ ഗ്രൂപ്പായിട്ടാണ് ഇവരെ കെട്ടുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇവരെ ഇങ്ങനെ കെട്ടുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ഇവർ ഒരു തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു എക്സൈറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് ഈ പട്ടികൾക്കുണ്ടാകുന്നുണ്ട്. അലാസ്കൻ ഹസ്കി ബ്രീഡാണ്. അവസാനത്തെ പേരിനെ കൂടി കെട്ടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഇനി സ്ലെഡിങ്ങിലേക്കുള്ള പരിപാടിയാണ്. അകത്ത് ഇരുന്ന് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ്, നമുക്ക് ഇരുന്ന് പോകാൻ പറ്റും. അപ്പം പട്ടികളെ ഒന്ന് ആദ്യം ഒതുക്കേണ്ടി വരും. അവരുടെ എക്സൈറ്റ്മെൻ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വല്ലാത്തൊരു എക്സൈറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് തന്നെയാണ്. They're very excited.
All the two dogs.
Yeah. Are there two dogs less on the left side?
Yeah. Runners are your troublemakers. Oh, that's what you're like being a bad
Okay.
Fjord in Norwegian means bear.
Okay.
Dalen means valley.
Okay.
Bear valley. But there's not too many bears anymore because the fjord doesn't freeze over anymore.
Oh, okay.
Last
So,
year it froze in 2004.
So where are the bears actually now restricted to the glaciers, near the glaciers, or?
Yeah, or either north or east where there's still some ice out.
Okay. Yeah. So the one which we went on, where there was a big boat, it doesn't go near the very much near to the ice, yeah.
You're not actually supposed to go so close to the ice. Glaciers have.
Yeah. It depends on the type of expedition. So I think they're not going to. They probably might not do. Yeah. What are these called? These birds are called actually. Okay. Good.
We had to take breaks in between to give them water. And I mean, like the other funny part was like they used to kind of stop themselves at around water puddles across, even when the guide was like trying to be angry. I mean, like the dogs at the front were basically the brains, okay, and then they were supposed to follow instructions, but then they were not obeying them at times when they used to see the water puddles. And so we almost risked the wagon being kind of being pushed into the drain, but it didn't happen. We were fortunate enough.
Training.
Okay.
So then they just go out for some very short, very fun puppy runs. Here, and then we also have some puppies in this big pen down below, and then they get to run around free. So it's good when they're young that they get well socialized and used to people, and good when they grow up a bit that they get well socialized with lots of other dogs. So that's these guys. And then we also have a mom who's pregnant, and she'll have puppies in about a week and a half. So then we'll have even more than